Welcome to the Candidate Forum hosted by the League of Women Voters of Aurora, Elgin, and Central Kane County. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am from the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. Thank you to Mayor Schielke and the City of Batavia for once again affording us this opportunity to use this wonderful room. I had thought that possibly Mayor Schielke would be here. He was here last night. I think he has a meeting. I would also like to thank Andrew Van Meter from BATV, Batavia Access Television, over there in the cubby, for once again airing our forum. At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator, Jan Dorner, who will provide information about tonight's forum. I will say that, as I said last night, that Jan, instead of being at the podium like normal, is sitting over on the dais with the candidates because I moderated for her in Elmhurst a week ago, and I got to sit in the comfy chairs. So I felt very guilty having her stand through the forum. So I would like to welcome Jan. Take it away.
Thank you. As you heard, I am Jan Dorner. I am from the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are happy to provide this service for the community. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for verifying the accuracy of the statements that candidates make in this forum. At this time, I would ask that you please turn off cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask that you refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or opposition of a candidate. No campaign literature may be passed out in this room, and feel free to put your campaign bling on once again when you leave the room. Note cards and pencils have been provided on which the audience may submit your questions. Questions will be screened only for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness to the office being discussed. They will also be screened so that each candidate would be able to answer the question. So don't submit a question for a specific candidate. Please signal a League volunteer when your question is ready for submission. Also signal a volunteer if additional note cards are needed. Realize that we may not get to all questions. This forum is for the candidates running for the office of Kane County Circuit Clerk, Illinois State Rep District 65, Illinois State Rep District 70, Kane County State's Attorney. All of the candidates participating have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to this forum. The League has an empty chair policy for forums. If an opponent has not agreed to participate or backs out at the last minute, the candidate who has agreed to participate and follow the rules of the forum will be afforded the opportunity to present their platform for up to 3 minutes. The candidate will not be allowed to answer questions from the audience. The candidates participate in the forum part of this evening will each present a 1-minute introductory statement, the order determined alphabetically by last name. Then questions will be asked and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Closing statements and continuing alpha rotation will also be 1 minute. LWV members will keep time and candidates will strictly adhere to the time limits. Candidates, please notice the timers. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence. Our candidates tonight for Kane County Circuit Clerk are Teresa Barraro and Anthony Catella. So let's start with an opening statement from candidate Barraro.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for conducting these forums. I am Teresa Barraro, your Kane County Circuit Clerk. elected to the position in 2020, and running for re-election. I am married and have 3 adult children. I reside in Aurora, of which I have lived my entire life. Prior to 2020, I served on the Kane County Board for 8 years. During that time, was Chair of Development, Foreclosure Task Force, Community Block Grants, and Co-Chair of Jobs. This experience has helped me lead the Circuit Clerk's office to what it is today. My goal tonight is to help you understand the duties of a Circuit Clerk and how far the office has come since my being elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Barraro, your opening statement. I'm sorry, Catella.
Thank you very much. Good evening, my fellow citizens. My name is Anthony Catella, and I am running for the Circuit Clerkship of Kane County, Illinois. And my previous offices that I've run for were Congress and Library Board and County Board. I have decided to enter public life. I entered public life in 2016 as an election judge. Then I got to be appointed a precinct committeeman. I've always believed strongly in American politics and government that we have the greatest form of government in the history of mankind, and that it is every citizen's duty to do something as a member of this great government of ours, because it allows us to live such a free and good life. And I look forward to running. I have been enjoying this campaign, getting out and meeting people, and I know I can do a good job if I'm elected. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Candidate Catella, why should voters care about the election of Circuit Clerk?
Voters should care about the election of the Circuit Clerk because the Circuit Clerk is one of the 6 county-wide offices in this county, as they are in all counties in all the states of our union. So it's a very important mission to help provide for the legal rights of our citizens. So it's important. It's very important.
Thank you. Candidate Barraro, the same question.
Well, the Circuit Clerk's, is this thing working now? There it is. The Circuit Clerk's office is the keeper of the record for the judicial, the 16th judicial courts. And our office maintains and our primary function is to maintain and keep all the records of the court and the court seal. So it's really important for the public to understand that our office is where you would pay for maybe a ticket, or we have wills, we have, if there's a lawsuit, all of this, anything that goes through the judicial system, through the courts, the paperwork is filed through our office. So the public doesn't really understand that, and I think it's really important. And if they have to pay fines and fees, they would do that in our office also. For if they have to file a will, they would have to do that in our office also.
Thank you. Candidate Barraro, what experience do you bring to the Circuit Clerk's office that sets you apart from your opponent?
Well, I've been doing the job, the position for 4 years, so that right there. I have over 30 years in government experience. I worked at the city of Aurora, and I also worked at the county clerk's office in Kane County. When I was at the city of Aurora, I worked in various offices there. One was the city clerk, and another was inspections and permits. And I also worked for a financial advisor. Through all of these positions, I am prepared, and they all included preparing budgets and managerial experience. So I feel that that alone, on top of already being in the position, makes me qualified.
Thank you. Candidate Catella.
Well, of course, I'm not the incumbent, so I don't have the experience of being circuit clerk. I can be honest enough to tell you that. But I really don't think that anyone really has any experience until they're actually in the job. But you know, people in public life come from the private sector, from with all backgrounds, various walks of life, and I think everybody brings something to the office of public trust for which they run and to which they have been elected or seek to be elected, and they bring to bear all the experience they had in their past life. My past experience has been in the United States military, and I'm proud of that fact. And I'm still serving in the military without a single ounce of pay in the Veteran Reserve Corps, Army of the United States, and in Christian ministry. That has been my background. And in all honesty, I'm proud to say these have been my backgrounds, and I know I can do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Catella. What policies have you implemented or will you implement that ensures that the clerk's records remain accessible to the public while maintaining the security of these records?
Well, of course, integrity. I have integrity, and I will make sure that, of course, when the attorneys file their cases, I'll make sure that they are filed manually or e-filing, and I will always work to make sure that things are done in a timely manner. In many ways, the way our current administration is working, Circuit Clerk Barrero is doing the very best she can, I'm sure. I know that, but if I'm elected, I'm very confident, I have every confidence that I can do just as good, but in the way I would do it. But I would certainly be as efficient as possible and work with my staff and depend upon their expertise since I haven't had this job before.
Thank you. Candidate Barraro, the same question.
Can you repeat it?
Sure. What policies have you implemented or will you implement that ensure that the clerk's records remain accessible to the public while maintaining the security of these records?
Well, our office, we follow Illinois state statutes and the Supreme Court Administrative Office of Illinois Courts statutes and local rules. So we basically cannot go outside of what the Illinois statute and the Supreme Court says. So we have all of our systems certified and they're up to date. Our case management system is what the public would access to view records and come into our office and view records. We have been updating that. In fact, we've updated it 3 times. We're working on a 4th one. And we are very, very secure. They cannot get into records if they're not supposed to get into records. There are certain areas where attorneys can see records and the state's attorney can see records, but they don't all see the same exact section of those records because there are statutes.
Thank you. So this piggybacks on that question. What record-keeping changes would make the judicial process in Kane County run more smoothly? And we'll start with candidate Barraro again.
It's actually running pretty smoothly right now. The court reporters now are recording in the courtroom, so they do not have to transcribe as much. They do after the courtroom, but they don't have enough court reporters to fill all the courtrooms. Currently, the only thing that would possibly be is if we had more staff.
Thank you. Candidate Catella, same question.
Sure. Well, I would make sure that you have the people that know what they're doing. I would look, well, on day one, should I be fortunate enough to win this office, on day one, what I will do is sit with my staff and my deputy and ask them, what has been going good these last 4 years? What has been going bad these last 4 years? What was going good the last 4 years will maintain. What they might have thought has gone bad over the last 4 years, we can change or fix and make better. And that's what I would do coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate Catella, as circuit clerk, what goal or goals do you want to accomplish during the upcoming 4-year term?
Well, I just want to maintain the openness of our courts. As your circuit clerk, it will be my duty to make sure that the courts of this circuit remain open to all, that their mighty wheels of justice grind continually for all people and all causes, looking down every broad avenue for justice with every concern of the law, tempering their judgments with reason and mercy for all, because this is my conception of American jurisprudence, and it is part of our wonderful American way of life. And if we do it at the highest level of our Supreme Court of the United States, we certainly can and must do it at the county level. And that's what I would do. That's my vision.
Thank you. Candidate Bararo.
Yes, my goals for the next 4 years, it's kind of funny because we talk about this a lot at work, but because we've made so many improvements. But we would like to continue improving on our technology. I would like to install kiosks in the courthouse and branch courts, which would be easy access for people to look up their records. We would also like to hold more expungement clinics throughout Kane County. Currently, we have held 2 to 3 a year in Aurora, Elgin, and Geneva, but we would like to hold more. We would like to do those quarterly. And we would also like to extend the hours of our branch courts in Aurora and Elgin. And I'm also looking at getting satellite branch offices throughout the county.
Thank you. So we have no further questions. So let's start with closing statements. And we'll start with candidate Bararo.
Thank you. I have over 30 years of government experience. This experience has helped me lead the circuit clerk's office to what it is today. The office is responsible for staffing courtrooms, whether in person or via Zoom. The 16th Judicial Court cannot operate without the circuit clerk's office. We have overcome unprecedented vacancies and now are almost fully staffed. Under my leadership, we have upgraded our case management system 3 times, and we are working on a 4th. I am proud of all the accomplishments that we have made and will continue to make under my leadership. If reelected as circuit clerk, I pledge to work towards better customer service, collaboration, innovation, and transparency.
Thank you. Candidate Catella.
Well, I appreciate very much the opportunity to be here this evening. Well, I'd just like to reiterate the statement I made a few moments ago. As your circuit clerk, it will be my constant duty to see to it that the courts of this circuit remain open to all, that their mighty wheels of justice grind continually for all people and all causes, that they look down every broad avenue for justice with every concern of the law, tempering their reasons and their judgments with mercy and justice and charity for all. This is my vision of American jurisprudence. It is the American way of life, and I will stand up for that way of life. I will perform my duties of office. I will stand publicly for the right principles, no matter if it's hard, no matter if it's easy or hard. But above all, duty to God, the law, and people, my fellow citizens of Kane County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's give these candidates a round of applause.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you. Some of the things you said, I've read, and I was sorry that I didn't say it myself.
Yes. So the Illinois House District 70, Randy Olson will give a 3-minute statement. No response was received from opponent Jeff Kiker. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you for attending the forum tonight, and I am sorry that my opponent could not come, did not attend. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County for hosting this event. Having the opportunity from our candidates to hear us in person is very important to the democratic process. My name is Randy Olson, and I'm the Democratic candidate for Illinois District 70. In Kane County, that district starts up on the north side in Pingree Grove. It goes along the western edge all the way down south to Sugar Grove. I'm a lifelong resident of Illinois. Illinois is where my heart is. I am Illinois proud. Illinois has so many wonderful attributes, such as Anderson Gardens, all the way down to Garden of the Gods. We have exciting urban areas, and we have beautiful countryside and fantastic colleges and universities. We need to capitalize on these attributes in order to entice more people to the state and maintain the current residents that we do have. I moved to DeKalb County, and I graduated from NIU. And I have been there for 42 years, and my husband and I, we currently live in Cortland, where we raised our son, Will Olson, and he is also a graduate of NIU. And currently I serve as a trustee on the town board. I decided to run for state representative because I've been very disturbed by the divide we currently have in the state and the country. I want to protect our currently threatened rights and make a real difference in the state I call home. I've spent my working life in the service industry, and this has given me the skills to really listen to people and work on solutions together. Never have I ever considered asking anyone if they were a Republican or a Democrat. In other words, when a constituent comes to my office, whether they are a Democrat or Republican will not be an issue. But how can I help them? One of these service careers I've worked in is the early childhood education field. I've been in the field for over 30 years, and I was a preschool teacher and director, and the birth to 5 age group will always hold a special place in my heart. Currently, we are facing a child care crisis. There is not enough daycare, it's too expensive, and the quality of it is starting to slide because of the high teacher turnover. We must do better by our children. In Springfield, I will do that. When in Springfield, I will do my best to work on this issue and other issues such as women's reproductive rights and mental health care. I will seek input from anyone willing to share their thoughts, no matter what party they're in. I want to do what's best for our state because I am Illinois proud and I want to do right by it. Thank you.
Thank you. For the Illinois House District 65, Linda Robertson will give a 3-minute statement. No response was received from her opponent, Dan Ugasti. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this opportunity to reach voters. I decided to run for office in 2022 after the Uvalde bloodbath where children were killed. I felt that I needed a representative who would represent my views. I also feel that after attending memorial after memorial, it was time to actually do something instead of just holding candles. And then after the Dobbs decision, I felt that this was even more important that somebody with my views, which I think are majority views, were representing the district. People do believe in freedom, and I believe in the freedom for women to make decisions about their own bodies and the fate of their families themselves. I don't support banning books, including many that are ones that were required reading by the Franciscan nuns who were my teachers. I believe that access to guns should actually should be on par with access to mental health care. right now, it's easier to get a gun than it is to get mental health care. I know we need to address the climate crisis. I'm a scientist. I'm an environmental microbiologist. The last couple years, we have seen fires. We have seen smoke coming into our area. We've had several hundred-year floods, and Hurricane Helene should be very much a wake-up call of what we're going to be looking at. I worked for Weyerhaeuser in research, and we were told in 1979 that this is what would happen, but nobody expected it that much faster. With my background in water treatment, recovery, reuse, I've evaluated how to do sustainable environmental solutions. Why should you elect me? Well, I have a background of innovation. I have 12 patents, and I like to solve problems. The more challenging, the more interesting. And having worked in the corporate world, I understand about regulations. Good ones help everyone's. Bad ones need to be revoked or redone, amended. And those are things that we really need to do. But I agree with Randy, we need to make things easier for families. I will fight for attainable childcare, health care, housing, and a fairer taxing structure for working families, along with dignity for seniors. We need more subject matter experts in Springfield. Send a scientist to Springfield. There's plenty of lawyers already. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give both candidates a round.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Oop.
All right, let's start with Kane County State's Attorney candidates. And the two that we have are Jamie Mosser and Andrew Sosnowski. So let's start with candidate Mosser. On your opening statement, you have a whole minute.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you to everyone who came out and to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. Although I watched it last night and this room was packed, and I don't know why the state's attorney isn't bringing in more audience over here. I have been your state's attorney for the last 4 years, and it has been an honor and a privilege. The way that I have prosecuted cases, the way that I've ran my office has always been with fairness and balance and justice in mind. Not every single person needs to go to jail or prison to be held accountable. We have to look at every case individually. We have to look at every fact pattern, every history that a person comes in, and we must always ask why. And that's exactly what I've done over the last 4 years. I brought in innovative programming, I've brought in a vertical prosecution structure, and I've advocated for my employees in the best possible way I can. I'm extremely humbled to be the state's attorney. I'm hoping at the end of this that every single person in this room and watching online will know that the best candidate for this continues to be me, and that I will work hard for Kane County. Thank you.
Thank you. Your opening statement, candidate Sosnowski.
Very good. Well, hello, everybody. It's nice to be here with you tonight. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. My name is Andrew Sosnowski, and I'm your candidate for Kane County State's Attorney. At this point in my life, it's important to stand up for families and children in our county. I'm running because I see progressive policies that are coming from Springfield and maybe Chicago that don't truly reflect the values and our needs here in Kane County, starting to grow and starting to make our communities less safe. I am the candidate that's looking at victims and victims' rights and victims' families. I place that above all else. And that's what we need to do for our community. We need to stand up and protect our citizens from anything that's coming here that doesn't truly reflect who we are as people. I vow to you, and I ask for your vote and your support to continue to do this. In my life, I've been doing that so far, and I'll tell you a little bit later about that.
Thank you. The first question will go to candidate Sosnowski. What are the two biggest challenges you will face when you begin your first or second term?
Well, it would be my first term, and I think the challenge is, number one, is to get into an office that has been run by someone else and to make sure that the people who are there understand that you're there to continue to support law enforcement efforts and prosecution efforts. I think that's number one. It's number one to make sure your staff trusts you and understands that you're not there to cut everybody and get rid of people, but to make sure you enhance what's happening. That's first. Second of all, it's to look at the policies that are in place right now. Many of them I don't believe are good for Kane County, and I'll be very upfront with you. Many of the policies that are started by my opponent are not needed for this county at this time. I'm for justice and fairness. My whole life speaks to that, who I am. You can look at me, and I'd ask you to look at my record and look at me online. Go to my Facebook, go to my website, and get to know me. It's really important to know your candidates.
Thank you. Candidate Mosser, same question.
Thank you. The first thing is funding. Unfortunately, in Kane County right now, we are in a budget crisis. And the problem is when the budget crisis comes in, they automatically look at what to do and how to cut. In public safety, for myself, the sheriff's office, the circuit clerk's office, we are statutorily bound, mandated offices. I will continue to fight to advocate for grants to bring in other money that is not reflective only on what we have to bring in with the county to make sure that public safety remains the highest priority we have. The second thing is we've had a battle legislatively, and that is a battle that I have taken on since January of 2021 when the SAFETY Act was passed. I was one of the most vocal and outspoken people to make sure that the legislation that comes through is the right thing for Kane County. I was one of the only Democrats that was allowed to be at the negotiation table to fix a law that had good intentions but was poorly written. And I will continue to fight to make changes within our laws and to advocate for the people of Kane County because I've proven to do that over the last 4 years.
Candidate Mosser, what are your thoughts on how to reduce the lengthy delays that often stretch cases into costly multi-year affairs?
That's a great question. So one of the things that I did when I came into office is I instituted vertical prosecution. That means we prosecution in teams for case types, and we don't just put people in courtrooms. That means you have an expertise. You understand what the case type is. You understand what the law is. When motions are filed, you already know what's going on. We need to continue to increase this in Kane County, not only within my office, but throughout the entirety of the courthouse. I have proposed to our judiciary, and we're in discussions to make case type in the different rooms so that even the judges and the public defenders are as knowledgeable on the cases. When you do that, you do not have a backlog, you do not have a delay. The other thing that I did over the last 4 years is I fought for pay parity for my employees because what I found is I was losing them at an alarming rate because they couldn't afford just to work here. And when you lose employees, then your case gets delayed because somebody else has to pay attention to a case. I will continue to fight for my employees so that they know that the best office to stay in is my office.
Candidate Sosnowski, same question.
Well, very good. Well, number one, it's training for the office and understanding that we have to train prosecutors to be prosecutors. Too many times, and I think in the current administration, they're called in different directions. The Kane County State's Attorney is the chief prosecutor of the county by statute. We have to prosecute the criminal laws of the state. And we have to have people that are willing to do that and willing to step up and willing to learn and willing to try cases. In the current administration, there's not a lot of cases tried. There's a lot of plea bargains, and a lot of these plea bargains are reckless. If you look at those, you look at the papers, you look at what's going on, they're not really equipped to try cases. And that's one of the things we need to do is make sure that the prosecutors are trained and that they get into situations where they know that they can move the case forward. If you are trained and you understand how to try a case and how to do this, the cases move very swiftly and very easily through the court system.
Thank you. Candidate Sosnowski, what role, other than prosecuting crimes, does the state's attorney have in making our communities safer? Please offer specific suggestions.
Well, number one, I think the chief prosecutor needs to bring community resources together. In my campaign even, I've gone north to south, east to west, talking to many organizations around this county. Many organizations that deal with mental health, with drug addiction, with developmental disabilities that are affecting our communities. The homeless crisis is huge. I just went on a ride-along with a law enforcement officer to understand the gravity of what's happening. Things like the SAFETY Act, which my opponent says is something that she worked on, is horrible. It's a horrible piece of legislation. It's legislation with good intent, but I would ask the governor to put a moratorium immediately on that act because it's not serving our communities. It's making our communities more dangerous, more ineffective as far as prosecution, and as part of keeping our communities safe. I do not believe in pandering to different people in order to drastically affect public safety.
Thank you. Candidate Mosser.
We have a huge role, not only because of the elected position, but also by statute. By statute, prosecutors and police officers are supposed to do deflection programs. Deflection program means getting them out of the criminal system without even getting into it, which means law enforcement should be able to partner with the state's attorney's office so that an arrest doesn't made, but they get to resources. I created Illinois' only pre-arrest diversion program, and that's a program that I'm extremely proud of, and we've helped a lot of people, and we're going to continue to do that. It is primarily grant funded, and it partners with police officers so that when an officer recognizes that a person is committing a crime due to mental health issues, substance use disorder, or lack of resources, instead of sending them through the criminal justice system, they can send them to our grant-funded case managers who statistically have been more likely to help them stay out of the criminal justice system than sending them through the criminal justice system alone. More programs like that will be created under my administration.
Thank you. Candidate Mosser, what changes need to be made to the SAFETY Act, as long as we're talking about it?
In reality, I need 3 hours and a PowerPoint for this. So the biggest thing that we have to do is we have to increase the list of detainable offenses, because as a prosecutor, I should be able to argue in any type of a case that a person is a danger. It's my burden to prove by clear and convincing evidence that that person is a danger, and no conditions would keep our community safe. The way that we have it now is that I am limited to 10 different categories of offenses. And myself, State's Attorney Berlin and DuPage, and all the other state's attorneys throughout Illinois have identified specific case types that we need to expand this for. In addition to that, there are other tweaks that need to happen to make it clear that when an arrest warrant is issued of somebody, that there's actual measures to be able to bring that person back in. We need to make sure that if you're a repeat offender, even if it's a low-level offense, because a repeat offender continues to affect our community, we need to be able to have triggers in place for a person who continues to commit that crime over and over again, so that we can also provide treatment and help to them.
Thank you. Candidate Sosnowski.
You know, my mother said to me once, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And the SAFETY Act is a sow's ear. It had good intention, but it's drastically affecting our communities. You ask people around, you ask law enforcement officers, people are being arrested and released, and they're not coming to court. There was an article just recently by the former chief judge of Kane County saying people aren't coming to court. They're being arrested, they're being released, and we have to get summons first because you have to commit another act in order to come back in the system, and it keeps playing over and over again like a broken record. Don't practice on us. Don't practice on our communities, Governor Pritzker. Do not practice on our communities. We want safety in our communities. Take the act back, look at it, fix it. Don't just do little patches here and there to try to make it better. But we have to understand that it's affecting community safety. On the lowest level, we say, oh, well, the low-level crimes, there is still a problem because it's affecting us.
Thank you. Candidate Sosnowski, do you think that local law enforcement officers should go through mandatory racial, ethnicity, equity training? Why or why not?
Absolutely. I'm a professor at Aurora University and also a 24-year veteran professor at Elgin Community College, where I teach law enforcement. I've taught law enforcement officers around this county for the last 24 years. And a big portion of that is to understand how to deal with people who are different than you. It's easy to look at somebody when they look like you and feel you know them, but you don't. And it's easy to look at somebody who doesn't look like you and say they're not like you, and that's not true. So we need to do absolute training. We need to continue. It's getting better. And I know in my classroom, we have classes just about diversity and about how to treat people with respect and dignity of all races, of all creeds. And in my classroom, we have all different people. And sometimes it's difficult to bring up race in front of other people who are not the same race and understand that you have to identify what's going on. That is what needs to be done in law enforcement, absolutely.
Thank you. Candidate Mosser.
Thank you. Yes, I do agree. Having worked with the Kane County law enforcement population, I can tell you that they also agree. We have some of the best law enforcement that I've ever been able to work with in my over 22 years of experience, and I can tell you they enjoy learning new things and they enjoy learning new techniques. Our law enforcement in Kane County has been committed to criminal justice reform because they too want to get people out of the system. They don't want to arrest people over and over again. And if being able to be given any additional type of training can assist with that, I am fully in support of it, and I know that my Kane County law enforcement partners are also in support of it.
Candidate Mosser. What are the most important skills needed for the office of State's Attorney?
I think the biggest skill is empathy, to be able to understand the people who come before you and to not judge them by a file or what they've been charged with. I think communication is another one. You have to be able to talk to everybody, my 196 employees, all of the elected officials that I represent, the community. And I think the other thing is a tenacity to want to do what's right for justice. And that's what I've done over the last 4 years, is I've individually looked at cases. I've tried cases myself. I've gone to board meetings. I have advised elected officials. I've even told elected officials that they were wrong. But you have to do that because it is your job. And so those are the 3 skills that I think are the most important to be the state's attorney.
Thank you. Candidate Sosnowski.
Yes, thank you. Number 1, you all, people here, all of us deserve independence. The state's attorney needs to be an independent person that's not beholden to law enforcement. They're partners, and they're very good partners, many of them. But for example, my opponent has connected herself very closely with the current Kane County Sheriff. She gave him $10,000 in his campaign rebid. And there are several cases that his office is involved in that are supposed to be investigated. You deserve independence. You deserve somebody who says that the buck stops here, and I'm not going to listen to outside groups, to politicians or people there, but I'm listening to the people of the state of Illinois. And that's what you get from me, somebody that's going to listen to you and understand that it's not about who's in charge or who's the boss, but to listen to real people. So independence is something you should demand and you deserve, and you will get that with me. I'm not a political person, I'm not a politician, and I want to represent you.
Candidate Sosnowski. When is it appropriate, if ever, to recuse yourself from a case?
Well, I think it's there are several cases that I question whether my opponent should be involved in prosecution. I think it's something that we look at and we say, do you have a stake in the outcome of that particular conflict? If someone has a stake in the outcome of that particular conflict, there should be a recusal. And that person should not be representing the people of the state of Illinois. When I step into the courtroom as a prosecutor, and I've been a prosecutor for many years, almost 17, 18, 19, 20 years if you count my time as Deputy General Counsel for the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, where I represented DCFS on kids. It's important to step up. And those are the things that I would look at as the state's attorney of Kane County.
Candidate Mosser.
Thank you. The law is when you have an actual conflict of interest, not when you have a stake in something at the end, when you have an actual conflict of interest. And as the state's attorney over the last 4 years, I have recused myself from cases when there was an actual conflict of interest. But the law is very clear. I am the state's attorney in this county. It is my legal duty to prosecute these matters. It is my legal duty to represent others. to comment on Mr. Sosnowski's opinion that somehow I'm beholden to our sheriff because I supported a sheriff who brought mental health funding into our jail and mental health treatment, who brought in drug treatment, and it has made a huge difference. I recently had to publicly oppose him. I am beholden to no one. So unless there is an actual conflict of interest in a case, it is the state's attorney's job. It is our duty to step up on every single one of these cases to be the state's attorney and to do the job that I was elected to do in 2020.
Candidate Mosser, is the current budget for the state's attorney's office appropriate?
Yes, however, I will continue to advocate for more funding. When I started, we were woefully under budget. State's Attorney McMahon, who is my predecessor, continued his fight over 10 years to increase the budget, not only to do pay parity, but to increase the amount of attorneys, investigators, case managers, advocates, support staff, and other employees. I worked really hard to show statistically why we needed additional people when there were crime trends and how we were going to be able to fund that. Additionally, I did an external study to show how little we were paid in comparison to even Kendall County, which is a portion of what we are. And I've been able to increase pay parity, which shows that I have done everything I can to support my employees. With that being said, I'm going to continue to do what's right for criminal justice, to make sure that we're safe, to apply for grants, including the $1 million grant that I just received from Senator Linda Holmes to help with the budget process we have.
Thank you. Candidate Sosnowski.
Yes, at this point, the state's attorney's budget is totally inflated. At this point, when my opponent got into office, I believe and I don't know the exact numbers, but it's doubled in the last 3.5 years, the state's attorney budget. In a time when we have crisis in funding around this country, yet that state's attorney's office has grown double or even more than double the amount that it was before. Now, there is nothing that should sacrifice public safety. I'm not saying that we should pare down on things that affect public safety, but a lot of the programs that are being funded at the state's attorney's office are pet projects. They're pet projects that are started by the state's attorney under a lead system that came out of Seattle, Washington, and that they really had a good success there. And these are programs that are not successful around the United States, and they're brought here to Kane County. They don't reflect our values. What I will do is, and what you deserve is to do a deep dive into how this money is being spent and to protect the taxpayers and our individuals.
Thank you. Candidate Sosnowski, let's end this with your first for the closing statements. You have a minute.
Thank you. Well, a minute is a whole lot of time here. So I ask you to get to know me. You know, I am not a politician. I'm a 35-year veteran lawyer. I have been a prosecutor in many places around the state of Illinois. I've prosecuted probably in 65 counties in Illinois. I've seen things and I've grown with those things around the state. I have many connections. I've also been the general counsel of the National Insurance Crime Bureau. It's a national bureau that deals with Interpol, Interstate Police, FBI, CIA for white-collar criminal activities. Those are the things that I bring to the office. I'm also the founder of the Kane County Child Advocacy Center. If I go to my grave with just that one thing, I will go to my grave happy that I've saved lots of children from the horrors of testifying in court. And it still exists today, the Kane County the Kane County Child Advocacy Center. Please get to know me.
Thank you. Candidate Mosser.
As a state's attorney, you want somebody who can show you proof. You want somebody who can bring forth cases based on evidence. What you know as voters is that I have shown you proof over the last 4 years that I am the best person for this job. I have not only brought innovative programming that has gotten people who have the low-level, nonviolent offenses due to mental health, substance use, or lack of resources out of the system, and have done so with grant funding, not county funding, as my opponent alleges, grant funding. I have also created more deferred prosecution programs, which are statutorily required to be done. We've also created a 4th specialty court that helps high-risk offenders. In addition to that, I created Kane County's Child Exploitation Unit, which investigates child predators. We have increased the investigations and prosecutions of people who perpetrate on our children. That balance is what Kane County deserves. I'm going to humbly ask all of you for your vote tonight. Please go ahead and visit my website for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Our time is up for this forum. For more information, please visit the nonpartisan voter guide, illinoisvoterguide.org, the candidates' websites, as well as League of Women Voters of Central Kane County, League of Women Voters of Aurora, and League of Women Voters of Elgin websites. Your participation as a candidate and as a voter is essential to preserving the democracy we hold dear. Please remember to vote on or before November 5th, as one vote can decide the election, and that one vote could be yours. Let's give these candidates a round of applause.